Hi, Broken Arrow. I'm Norm Stevens, Economic Development Manager for the City of Broken Arrow. Welcome to our new series starting this month about economic development, administration, and activity updates. During these monthly updates, we will discuss why it's important for residents to shop local and how City and Chamber of Commerce staff work to recruit and retain businesses. The updates will cover economic development activities happening all over the city. Most of the first update is going to focus on the internal decision-making process businesses use to make investment in certain cities or to expand existing locations. I will also share information on our efforts to recruit a grocery store to South Broken Arrow. Next, I provide updates on Tiger Hill Plaza, Creek 51 Business Park, and the shops of Aspen Creek. Finally, you will hear about two common social media misconceptions about economic development in the city. Now here's what happened at the July 21st beta meeting. Thank you, Mr. Spurgeon. Mr. Spurgeon came to me originally and he requested that I update this board on our economic development projects and recruiting efforts. We both envisioned it being a single presentation to get my portion of it out of the way. As I began compiling the information, it became real evident real quick that there was going to be so much information that we'd all be here until midnight tonight. And we decided that some of the things we really wanted to share with you would get lost in that because we'd all be exhausted. So what we decided to do is we decided to break it down into 5 sessions over 5 months. So during the second authority meeting of each month, I will be presenting, and as Mr. Spurgeon said, other people will come up. Another thing that became apparent to me is the need to provide information about retail recruitment to assist those who frequently enjoy posting comments on social media for things that are provided by the city and oftentimes provided by council members. And my original intent was to name my presentation, "Don't Let the Facts Get in the Way of a Good Opinion." Mr. Spurgeon shot that one down, so I decided that we would move to the next one and do my top 10 social media misconceptions of economic development administration. And over the next 5 months as I update this, you'll hear about some of the exciting development around the city, some of the great things that's getting ready to happen over the next few months. You'll also hear from economic development specialists from the city and the Chamber of Commerce. I will also feature 2 new social media misconceptions each and every month. Lori Hill will come and talk to you about tourism, which is economic development. We're going to talk about business retention and expansion and all the things that Darla Heller and Jennifer Conway do through the Chamber, along with Michelle. The things that will update you, I hope at the end of each presentation that we'll get at least one thing out of it that you'll say, maybe I didn't know that, or it's good to know. During my presentations over the next 5 months, you're going to hear industry words, and these are industry words across the board. These are not Norm Stevens words. These are not City of Broken Arrow words. You're going to hear phrases such as herd mentality, analytics, decision-making metrics, and internal analytics pertaining to the criteria site selectors seek when recommending a new store or a new location. I hope to demonstrate that retail recruitment is significantly different from is not significantly different from one community to the other. The things that Tulsa has to do, that Broken Arrow has to do, that Coweta has to do, is no different than anywhere else in this state. Because economic development recruitment has to meet the criteria set out. The criteria national retailers use is the same no matter who's recruiting them. National retail and restaurants simply do not care which side of Garnett that they're on. They don't care what a particular neighborhood wants in their area. Relationships may get me in to talk with these folks. However, if the traffic counts, population density, daytime population, and income levels are not what the company is seeking, they will move on to another location or community or even to a state that does meet the criteria that they lay out. When you're dealing with these folks, their singular desire is to make a profit. Nothing else matters. It's really no different than any of us who invest in the stock market. When we invest in the stock market, a lot of us have no idea what our financial manager is putting our money into. What we do care about is at the end of the day or the end of the month or the end of the year that we've made money and that our portfolio has grown. If it hasn't, there's a good possibility we'll go look for another financial manager to handle our funds. It's the same way with site selectors who go out and they pick a certain amount of sites and make recommendations to these companies. If they miss on them more than once or twice, they'll go find another site selector. So they do everything they can possibly do to hedge their bet to make sure that they're right. Those listening to our presentation may not like what they hear at times. It may not align with their opinion, what they once read on social media, which is okay. That's not a problem. I would simply ask that that person take the opportunity to visit with a commercial retail broker and ask them, what do you hear when you're out? Don't take my word for it. Talk to other people who are into the industry. And more than likely, they're going to find that it's pretty consistent across the board. Let's get started with tonight's economic development update. The first one we're going to talk about is Tiger Hill Plaza. Tiger Hill Plaza became the bane of my, or not the plaza, but the piece of land, became the bane of my existence about 10 years ago. Over that course of time, we tried to put together many economic development deals, and I came before this committee on many occasions. It was sold by Beta on August 7th, 2018. We all got to enjoy an official groundbreaking ceremony on July 10th, 2020. And the video's buffering, and as it buffers, I'll fill you in on a little bit of what we were able to share. It's going to be a 30,000 square foot development. There's going to be 2 additional pads that will accommodate up to 4,000 square feet. The west pad is currently under contract. The owner anticipates opening the first store in late 2020 with a soft opening of the complex in February 2021 and a grand opening in March of 2021. The owner of the shop or of the development anticipates that 80% of the space will be pre-released at the time of the opening. And that looks a lot like the service I have at my house. Right now they have Tacos for Life and Kyo Asian Fusion sign. He's working on 3 additional leases or letter of intents, one with a sushi restaurant, a new national sandwich concept, and a sports pub. And let's move on in the interest of time. The next one I want to talk about is the Creek 51 Business Park. And the owner of this business park, and this came before this board in last year, and this board did something that was pretty historic. And what the board did is they approved moving forward with first TIF in Wagner County history. And they also did something else. It's the first TIF of this type that we've done that all of the pressure is on the developer. It's not on the city. It's on the developer to make sure that it goes out. They sent a beautiful rendering of a drone that will show you exactly all the work that's been going on. And once again, it's buffering for us. But when you look at it, and I will get it sent out to the authority, when you look at it, you can see that they have put in a tremendous amount of work. And it's getting cleaned out. One site is currently under contract. They had 2 other sites that were getting ready to be under contract once that the COVID hit. And at that point, they backed out. The owner reports that he's still working with them. They don't have letters of intent at this time or contracts. But he anticipates the first building will be under construction by the end of 2020. The next one is the Shops at Aspen Creek. And I know that's one that we're all interested in. The Shops at Aspen Creek is a regional shopping center consisting of 100 acres. The Warren Theater, which is a $40 million investment, opened in December of 2014. The Reserve at Aspen Creek, which is the apartment, opened up in 2017, and it consists of 240 apartment units. Recently, Starbucks opened in Great Cliffs. The site is being heavily marketed by the owner's team. Over the last several years, both the chamber and myself have heavily pushed this area. Whenever we put in the Shops at Aspen Creek and we did the economic development tied to right-of-way. 3.250 or 3,250,000 of the incentives was supposed to be a sales tax rebate at 1.37% for 15 years, and we're in about 6 or 7 years of that. Obviously, the return for that incentive has not been as great to the owner of the shops of Aspen Creek as he would like. Recently, I visited with Mr. Spurgeon, and we decided to contact the owner of Aspen Creek, the shops at Aspen Creek, and talk to him about possible other uses for that piece of property. And he was very receptive to continuing that conversation. Kind of what's happened with this is when this went into effect, big box stores were locating. They've quit doing that. There aren't too many big box stores anymore. So it really changed the plan of what he was trying to do. I would be lying to you if I told you I wasn't extremely disappointed that this hasn't done what we thought it would be. We really thought this would be one of the first big steps in growing South Broken Arrow. But so far, it has not lived up to that expectation. I haven't given up on it. I think as the density increases in South Broken Arrow, you will see that it will do well.
Norm, what did he share with you when Darla and you visited with him about some of his challenges or what efforts he's made?
He has, and I talked to him about how many grocery store providers that we have talked to. And as I get into this presentation a little bit more, I'll tell you the exact count. But what he said is, he goes, I can guarantee you that my people have talked to every single one that you've talked to. Every retailer their people have talked to. The things that they have problems with and run into is the density and is the traffic counts. The price that he has asked, I tried originally whenever Russo's came and we began talking with them to put them towards the shops at Aspen Creek, and they weren't able to come to an agreement on how much per square foot they could do. So we went across the street to Owasso Land Trust, and if you've been out there, they're making great progress on their building. Right now, he's at a loss. He has put the effort he feels and his people's effort to get this development filled, and up to this point, he has not been as successful as what he thought it would be. I would imagine, as disappointed as everyone is here, he shares in that disappointment also. I want to apologize that the two videos, for some reason, have not come up. I now want to go into the top social media misconceptions of the Economic Development Administration. One of the things that I hear a lot, Mr. Spurgeon touched on, is if you persistently ask a developer enough times to come to your city, they will eventually say yes. I have people who I have gone to over the course of the last 10 years at ICSC events twice a year requesting that they come to Broken Arrow and look at generally the south part of our city. National retailers utilize a decision-making metrics consisting of internal analytics to identify a market that contains the criteria the retailer desires. This is the first level in their site selection. You got to get past that one to move on. If a city does get past that first level, the retailer will use internal analytics on surrounding stores or even in other states that have similar demographics. They will examine if a potential location will cannibalize an existing store in that area. They will also look at the health of competitors in the trade area, as well as positive or declining growth. National chains will examine a 1 mile, 3 mile, and 5 mile radius density. They will look at household income and education levels. Many companies will not locate in an area that has less than a 25% graduation rate, 25% of the population. College graduates. Retailers are less likely to cannibalize a younger store, 5 years or less, than they are an older established store of 5 years or more. Based on those analytics, they'll either move forward in the process or they'll just stop the search altogether. And we've gotten to that point on many occasions. A national retail or restaurant chain know how many new units they want to build each year. They establish that before they ever start the recruitment process. Whenever I was recruiting Home Depot heavily to go in the south part of our city, the first several years I visited with them, they were really listening intently. Then all of a sudden they fell off the map, and I couldn't get them to talk to me. And then finally, a couple of years ago, I got back into conversation, and they said, we're only building 5 stores in the United States in the foreseeable future, and all 5 of them will be in Florida. I can't compete against that. There's nothing I can do to compete against that type of decision. The site selector has the responsibility to locate and investigate a specific number of potential locations and make recommendations to the company. Once again, if that site selector misses on one or more, the company will find a new site selector. The company will compile a list of potential locations, weigh the pros and cons of each, and put each location into a ranking. Ease and proficiency of the municipality permitting process is also a consideration. That is something that is so important with our city, is in order for someone to come here, we are so business friendly that they can work through that process very, very quickly. That is a major selling point. Companies will not locate a store or a restaurant in any location that they are not confident they will make money. Nothing else matters whatsoever. That is what they're there to do, is to make money. A great example of this is Vasa Fitness. Whenever Reeser's building ended up open, Vasa was one of the first ones that we went to try to get in that fitness center. I talked to them about incentives and that we would be interested in providing an incentive package to get them into that large space. Their site selector said they require 100,000 people to live within 3 miles of a potential location. The 2 locations Vasa vetted, New Orleans and Elm and Kenosha and County Line, had a density of 47,500 and 54,000 respectively in a 3-mile radius. Vasa said they needed 15,000 members to be successful. They also said they would not locate a new fitness center within 7 miles of an existing location. So we were good there. Vasa required a 55,000 square foot facility, and the research building is greater than 70,000. Vasa only builds up to 15 clubs a year, and they're committed to their current expansion plans through 2021. Although Broken Arrow is a logical site when they compare, and this was the exact words of the site selector, when they compare BA to other potential locations, BA always ends up in the middle. When Sky Fitness went out, I went to them to talk about that location and still try to head them towards South Broken Arrow. And what they told me was not really surprising. They said the fact that Sky Fitness went out of their location at Kenosha and County Line just reinforced the fact that there's not enough density for them to locate there. You know, the city of Broken Arrow is often accused, and it's number 2 on our list tonight, of not doing anything to recruit grocery to South Broken Arrow. Probably of anything that I read on social media or hear that is said that about us not recruiting grocery in the south part of our city that upsets me, that may be right at the top of the list. Over the past 2 years or less, City and Chamber of Commerce staff have met with, exchanged information with, or attempted to contact 45 grocery providers. And this is across the nation. I'm going to highlight 9 of them. These are the 9 I can speak to because I have actively pursued them. Aiken's Natural Grocers. Staff recently met with the Senior Vice President of Healthy Edge Retail Group and discussed the New Orleans Square project. Crest. Crest originally had a goal of 10 locations. They're building number 9 right now in Yukon and is scheduled to be completed by the end of 2020. Crest has purchased land in East Edmond for location number 10. They prefer to stay somewhat local due to the fact that they have a major distribution center in Edmond of 220,000 square feet. Any location outside that area would increase their delivery cost. We will continue to pursue Crest for our city. Albertsons, I exchanged emails with their senior real estate manager who advised they were not expanding into Broken Arrow. or into Oklahoma, forgive me. Sprouts, I've had numerous conversations with Sprouts. One of the first deals that we did was to bring Sprouts to North Broken Arrow, and I meet with their site consultant on a regular basis. Reese's, up to October 2019, I received a email from their site selector with the Association of Wholesale Grocers advising that they are seeing a softening market and sales forecasts are not improving for that location in Southwest Broken Arrow. They're still reluctant to invest in a new store at this time. They review it every 90 days. However, they were seeing a downward trend in the market as a whole. For now, they're going to hold tight and review this again in the future. Aldi's in June 2020, I exchanged emails with Matt Martis, who's their site selector with Payne and Associates out of Tulsa. He advised Aldi's is in a holding pattern right now. They like the area, South Broken Arrow, but have a couple of markets in the pipeline ahead of us. It would help if we could get activity from another anchor or two. I continue to pursue Aldi's. Kroger's does not have an Oklahoma location. Winco Foods, I've had numerous conversations with their site selector. He's advised me time and again they're not looking at South Broken Arrow. They're using a Tulsa location as a test market. In the event that sales at that location continue strong, Winco anticipates putting in 4 to 5 stores in the region. He has told me straight out, if Winco decides to locate in Broken Arrow, it will most certainly be for a store in the Northeast Quadrant. Sam's and Costco. I met with the site selector for Costco a few years ago, and I offered them nearly free land in the southwest portion of our city. They refused, saying it did not fit their criteria. They drew a circle on the iPad map showing the area around 91st and Yale, a circular, and said we will locate within here, and we all know where they ended up locating. These, many of these that are on your screen right now are the people that the chamber has reached out to very, very recently and sent packets of information. The lack of grocery, of additional grocery in Southwest Broken Arrow is not due to everyone putting forth their best effort to get that grocery in South Broken Arrow. We know what people want. I continue to work on it. Jennifer Conway and her staff continue to work on it. We're not going to stop until we get that. The area is getting stronger. There's getting more rooftops. There's getting more density. There's getting more daytime density. It will happen. I just can't tell you it's going to happen in the next month or two, but it will happen. With that being said, that's the end of this presentation. Mr. Spurgeon, if you have anything else, or I will be happy to answer any questions you may have.
No, I just wanted to cover the supermarket, the grocery store, because that's something that I know the council members hear quite a bit about the fact that it was disappointing that Reese's made that business decision to leave, and that was the anchor in the New Orleans Square.
Yes, sir.
I just want to point out is that I had a conversation with Jeff Reeser in I think it was June or July of 2018 while you were at the air show.
Yes, sir.
And said that I would be willing to take an incentive package to the council of at least $1 million. And he said, Michael, I appreciate that, but it won't even touch it based on what I need to renovate that building and to build my new model because I want to put, if I did do it, I'd want to put the model that I have in North Broken Arrow, and so I need $6 to $9 million, and based on what I can sell groceries for, I just can't get a return on my investment. And so it was very disappointing to see. We tried to work with him by doing a TIF in 2 different locations, and the amount of return on his investment that he wanted via sales tax was not something we could justify. And so I do agree that we have to stay on it. We have to continue to work to find a second grocer in Broken Arrow. That's what the people want. That's what the council said. And so I think we just need to continue our efforts, making those calls, traveling where we need to travel to try to convince someone to make that investment, knowing that we'd be glad to do an incentive. Now, that's what I wanted to touch on tonight, mainly is the grocery store, and I'll be glad to answer any questions the council member. And I'd also like some feedback on some of the things you would like to see us talk about in future presentations.
Any questions or feedback?
I think that
in years past, and a while back, we used to get feedback on what was going on in the city, knowing all along that a lot of things that goes on is confidential, a lot of things you can't talk about, or the chamber can't talk about for a while, but at least it helps us communicate with the public, at least if we know that something's going on. The only question I would have is, what kind of mask would you wear, or do you have one on now?
I have one within lunging distance.
I don't know how it would work with all that filter around. But thank you very much. You did a very good job. Thank you.
I'm super excited about this. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a really good thing that we are doing this communication. I think it's really important because there is a lot going on behind the scenes, and even with what you said, there's still more going on behind the scenes. And as you know, since Vice Mayor Udi and I, have served on this committee for New Orleans Square, it's, we're very excited just the way that report is coming along, and it'll be fun to see the things that happen in the next year even.
One of the things
I appreciate you.
Thank you, ma'am. One of the things that's important, you have a city manager that whenever we were doing a little bit of research on him when it was down to the last few, economic development is his passion. And he has got a ton of good ideas, and he never sits back on his laurels. He's always pushing, he's always making suggestions. That's a great asset that our city has, is that we don't sit back. We put a lot of effort and a lot of resources towards retail development, towards manufacturing, towards business recruitment and expansion.
I've served either on the chamber board or the EDC board or this council for the better part of 15 years or more. And we've been doing all this for that entire time. Yeah. There's been an assumption that it hasn't gone on, and I've never understood that except just out of frustration. Sure. But I know for a fact, because I've been part of it for 16, 17 years, that this has been going on. But I think it's time, high time, past time, that we make sure that everyone understands what we've been doing. And of course, as Councilor Park said, we're limited in what we can disclose, because a lot of times if a deal's brewing, the last thing that business wants us to do is go out and say, hey, they're coming. Can there be a lot of factors that could damage? But just to let people know, we've met with 20 different businesses to get them here. So we're not sitting down there, and I've never understood the concept that, especially I live in South Broken Arrow, and I know Councilor Gillespie does too. We don't sit down there gleefully saying, we've really messed up downtown. I mean, South Broken Arrow. No, we're desperate to get stuff done. That's why we task you with this. And so I think it's time we start tooting our horn on exactly the work we're doing to get businesses down there. Because every day, I know that you and the Chamber and the EDC are reaching out to people. And I think it's important that we let everyone know the work we're doing. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
Well, I can tell you this, I don't get too emotional about some things. I get excited, but if you ask me what keeps me awake at night, it's not producing potable water, because we do a very good job. It's not public safety. I've got fire chiefs that are awesome. It's the fact that I just can't figure out how to overcome the misperception that we're not doing enough in South Broken Arrow, because I live down there. And for people to think that we're not doing something is just not true. We will offer incentives. We will consider creating TIF districts. We will offer some type of sales tax rebate. We will do anything. I know this council is willing to take risk, and that's what I wanted to communicate to the public, is that there is a deal that makes sense that we can justify and defend to give a sales tax rebate or to create a TIF or create a public-private partnership. We will do that. I know this council well enough to know that they're willing to take that risk, because I saw what you've done over the years when those opportunities were before you. And so I just want the public to understand is that we struggle because we're working hard. And I do believe the rooftops are increasing. The traffic counts are increasing. I also think people are getting tired of driving over to Memorial and they're looking for something here. And so I feel real good about the investments that we've made, which you're going to hear Norm talk about what we've invested. And when you talk about $30-40 million, some communities are so envious at the fact that our voters support us to that degree. So I think we got to keep working hard. You got to keep pushing us as a council to stay on top of this, keep asking those questions, and let's keep talking about it, because once we talk about it, that could create some opportunities that people know that we're open for business. So that's all I wanted to mention.
So your top 10 misconceptions, you're going to have that part of your rollout videos and stuff? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, and it's done just because folks don't know what they don't know.
Can you do like a David Letterman style? Like,
We're-
if anybody knows who that is.
Absolutely. So it's a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity to refresh what economic.
And then I can just copy and paste that every time, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And you know, perception is reality.
Yeah.
And so regardless of all the work that goes on behind the scenes, and I know this is like an extra task when you're out there trying to do the actual work, this is just something extra that you have to do. But it's important because it is, you know, and when I look at South Broken area, I mean, it's like I do delivery from Walmart. I shop at Brahms, their little grocery, all the time. And that's what we need to do. We need to keep our business in Broken Arrow. And yeah, it might take a little more effort, but honestly, I've kind of enjoyed going into Brahms. I mean, I've probably gained 10 pounds because I always buy an ice cream or like a thing of ice cream, but we've got good things and I do appreciate it.
And our sales tax is the lowest.
That's true.
That's right.
It's true.
It's cheaper to shop in your own
Thanks,
city.
Norm. Now, we'll put this out, and we're actually going to be sending them out every month, and we're looking forward, we'll be looking at the comments and actually amending some of our presentation to address some of those comments each time, because I think it's important that the community gets some feedback, and we'll be responding to those comments. So I'd encourage council members to review the post as well.
That's it for the first edition of the BA Economic Development Update. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any suggestions or would like something specific mentioned in future monthly reports, please call or send me an email. Until next time, I hope you will continue shopping local and be amazed at what our city has to offer.